What happens when he's dead?
When Bucho's dead, it's over. He's the last one.
End of Payback? An eye for an eye and all that crap? You finally gonna be satisfied?
I think so.
I hope so, because I don't have the stomach for this anymore.
You never did.
Neither did cheat codes. All right, it's May 5th, everybody, 2016. Welcome to episode 95 of the Cheat Codes Podcast. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Woo! Thank you for tuning in. We're always glad to have you with us. The next hour is us drinking a few beers and going over our favorite bits from the past week in video game, tech, and pop culture news. My name is Joe Erskine, and I am your host. We're coming to you from a real shithole bar in Mexico where Cheech Marin is scaring vacationing college co-eds, and Quentin Tarantino is making long-winded but well-written jokes. Today I'm here with Cheat Codes contributor Mr. Nick Campagolish.
Hey, how's it going?
Cheat Codes community manager Chris Kino Morris.
Quinoa?
Yes, that's right. And we're very excited to have game industry consultant and video game visionary Mr. Vlad El Mariachi Micu.
Hola.
Today on the show, we're going to shake a guitar case with a minigun in it to get to the main topics. We're going to talk about making a hypothetical game where making losing is meaningful. We'll discuss the controversial idea of Oculus appearing in retail stores before their pre-orders are filled. And we'll make mention of Google wanting to inject cyber lenses into our eyeballs. Awesome. For today's lightning round, we'll dust off our badass suede scorpion jacket while we ponder the following bits. Perhaps there's an argument to be made about more Hollywood actors appearing in video games. And lastly, the idea that YouTube and Hulu will be streaming live TV by next year because screw cable. Vlad, welcome, sir. We're really glad to have you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Tell us what you do. Give us the long-winded approach to this. What's it like being the Mary Poppins of video games?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Joe. It's what can I say? A lot of people when they speak about like key figures in the business, they're always like, oh, everyone knows this person. When they speak about me, it's like he knows everybody. So it's kind of like a reputation I guess I have to uphold. But what does Mary Poppins do, right? When shit hits the fan, she usually comes landing down. And so if I look back at the last 10 years of my career, because it's my 10-year anniversary in this industry in September this year.
Congrats.
I've had my share of dropping into people's affairs, voluntarily or involuntarily. But just a quick overview. Like I've been credited in over 10 games in this last decade. I work with a lot of indie developers. Working with an indie developer right now, I'm business development manager for Data Realms, a game developer based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Made a game called Cortex Command a few years ago. Did pretty well with that, and now we just launched Plant with Pioneers on Steam Early Access. So I'm full on top of that. I have a background in industry journalism, very similar to Chris, and bluffed my way into the industry that way, and now I'm doing cooler stuff.
Right on. That's awesome, man. Well, we're super glad you're here, and
it's my pleasure.
No, thank you for doing it. It's 2 a.m. where you are in the where did you say, the attic?
Netherlands. Yes.
The Netherlands.
I'm my parents' attic in the Netherlands, where
so
I
rad.
usually find myself when I'm in between trips because I travel a lot.
That's how you know the difference between Europeans and Americans, because we hang out in basements. Apparently, they hang out in attics.
We don't have attics in the Netherlands because we're technically underneath the sea level.
Right.
So that would,
no basements.
Floods that covered the entire country in the 50s.
Right.
We have something called like the Delta Works and dikes and stuff.
Sure. We had that too in New Orleans, and
it depends.
We all saw how that worked out. So
we Dutch people sympathized a lot with you guys.
I imagine
back there in New Orleans, because that was horrible stuff.
Yeah, definitely. All right, very quickly, let's talk about what we're washing the episode down with. While we try to avoid piss warm Chango, sometimes it's necessary. Today is not one of those days, however. In honor of Cinco de Mayo and our guest, we'll tip a few Waldo's Special Ales back, made by the folks of Lagunitas over in Petaluma, California. We're not sure what makes it special, but the 11.5% ABV is an indicator. So cheers, everybody. Hey.
Cheers.
Glasses.
Yum.
All right, so we got plenty to talk about today. We're going to have at it. Making games where losing matters. This is kind of an interesting little topic. The AV Club posted an article recently that posed an interesting question. How do you make a game where losing matters? While the article had a bunch of testimonial quotes from different facets of the industry and beyond, I thought it'd make for a nice way to break in the episode. We talk a lot about games here on the show, but traditionally and on a high level, we don't often consider how losing at a game can be more than rage quitting or smashing a controller. What if it actually had meaningful purpose? What does that game look like? Are there existing examples? The answer is yes, and we'll talk about it. Just imagine you're a sociopath mariachi and you're up against insane amounts of cartel thugs. So how do we make that meaningful and engaging, right? So we can do this one of two ways. We can start with a more general and from our own thoughts kind of way, or we can highlight some of the excerpts from the article and expound, agree, or disagree. But when we talk about making a game where losing matters, what are the first things you guys think of? Nick?
EVE Online.
EVE Online. That's a good. That's pretty good. Chris, what do you think?
Definitely going to be Dark Souls. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's where I was going to go with it. Vlad, how about it?
I need to think. Like the first thing that popped into my head was the thing they introduced in Call of Duty at one point, where you had like kill streaks and death streaks.
Okay, no, fair enough.
Like, there's a ton more. I'm just not gonna waste my like ammunition on it right
Yeah,
away.
Understood. I think for
That's
me,
the first thing I thought of.
Sure. I think for me, I think we talked about it in the show like last year sometime, but wasn't there a game that existed for a very like set amount of time? It's like you could log on, but once you died, you were done. Like that's the biggest effect you could have.
It was like a dungeon game, I think. I think it was hack and slash or something. I can't remember it all.
Right.
But it was.
I can't remember what it's called. And
the
I
whole
wish
idea was it was like everyone would be watching this, and then they would actually get a chance to participate in it because they would get one life, and they would play the game, and when they died, their turn's over, and then the next person comes in, and then once everybody's played the game, there's nobody left to play. I mean, it's over or something.
Sure.
Hey, you know what's funny about that, actually, is those guys that made that game.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're going to be on our show next week.
No shit.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's called Upsilon Circuit.
You'd think I'd know more about that being the host of this show, but
yeah.
Thanks for the update, community manager. I appreciate it. That's good. No, that's cool. Well, good. I'm looking forward to talking to them about this very similar thing. But so when you guys think about, like, Chris, you're a designer, right? And I'm sure that Vlad, you've had some design experience as well, and Nick, I know you have as well. When you think about making losing or dying matter in a game, like not referencing other games that already exist, like what are the first things you think about, and like mechanically or when you making it mean something to the player?
To me, I believe the reference that you guys were making just now. I think that was like Glitch Rider, which was a game. It was actually a global game jam game made in 2011 by the people who were better known back. We're not that known back then, but are known now as Flumbeer. So like Rami Ishmael and JW Naiman and stuff.
Sure.
And what they did was that the game had a finite number of lives, and it became unplayable afterwards. It was an amazingly smart marketing move for them because it got like a lot of coverage for a dead game. And I think it kind of sparked some discussions, like some design initiatives for making death more meaningful in games afterwards. I wouldn't be surprised if your guests, and that's the good news of having those guys up next week. You'll be able to serve the subject on a silver platter because we put it through the grinder just now, right?
Right.
So, but that was for me personally. I was there at the game jam when they did that, so I saw the game alive. I'm one of those few people that saw it live before it died.
That's really cool.
So that's I wear that as an honor badge. But those kind of things. I think, what the article that you guys sent me that discusses this kind of pointed out is that it's not something that's glued on top of an existing game's design, that it's something that's inherently a part of the experience from the get-go, and that it doesn't work with games that most games are, where the inherent goal of the game is always winning, right?
Right.
So, it's no surprise that the first thought that Chris has is Dark Souls, because that's an inherent part of the game's design. We just don't see that very often, and I applaud games that have that, because adversity is just as interesting as opportunity.
I agree, but I think if you're like a new gamer, like I don't think the first thing you hand them necessarily would be Dark Souls. I think they'd be easier, maybe Pac-Man or Tetris or Super Mario or something like that, where the learning curve, the accessibility is a bit more. It's a less steep slope, so to speak, right?
Yes, but those are also games where death is a punishable thing. Like, you get punished for dying.
Okay, sure, yeah. I mean, your life counter
lose
goes
your life.
down. There might be a point. There might be a point
It's
differential.
a threat. It's a fear-inducing thing. It's associated to failure.
So
yeah,
inherently, losing in general already comes like prepackaged with a certain amount of meaning in it, right? But
I mean, it has meaning, but it also has like even a political element to it. I would say, like you compare. Games are usually status driven.
Sure.
Both online and offline.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I think that's an interesting take on it. I want to. I guess the part that I'm trying to like kind of explore a little bit more is the idea that like while death is kind of an inherent part to many different games, and it does come prepackaged with a certain amount of meaning. Like how do we create a more like how do you create a central mechanic around it? And Dark Souls again is that kind of idea, but you can die a billion times in that game, and yes, you can lose tons of souls in between those deaths if you don't necessarily make it back to the spot where you died. But at some point, that becomes kind of rote, and it becomes. I'm not trying to detract from that game series at all because I love it, but at the same time, eventually it becomes kind of like a dumbed down and distilled thing, and I think that's what death has become, and then maybe the point that this article was, subjectively trying to make. And so what game, what's the mechanic, how do we necessarily answer a question that exists around building death as a more meaningful thing than it already exists, like from a more like traditional
I guess like the question that I would pose, I don't know if I should pose it to you or to the author of this article, but do you feel that the death mechanic in a Souls game is dumbed down once you overcome the challenge and that you're no longer dying, that it's not as significant? Or like which I guess when do you feel like death is no longer meaningful in the Souls games once you've completely mastered it?
Mm-hmm. I think if you've gone so far as to kind of like dynamically figure out how combat works, how you've memorized every enemy's attack patterns and animations to the point where you can dodge things by a single frame, you know what I mean, to some extent.
So
go ahead.
What makes death meaningful in Dark Souls, I guess, is my question. Like,
because it happens a lot.
I understand it happens a lot, and it's part of the gameplay, but what makes it meaningful to the actual gameplay? So
the part that makes Dark Souls death meaningful is because the game is so like it's hard for me to look at Dark Souls objectively as like a new Dark Souls player, but thinking back to maybe my first experience with a Souls game, death is meaningful because the game is always like kind of goading you into, all right, like, well, pick yourself back up and dust yourself off because you got to go get those souls back. And you're like so stressed out about getting those souls back, especially the closer that you are getting to retrieving them again. But when you have them, you realize, well, I actually made all of that back, or I made a portion of that back on the way. And also this was like much easier the second time through, or the third or the fourth time through, however many times it takes.
Because you learn something every time you do it. Yeah.
So death is like a core mechanic that's actually encouraging you to become more skillful at the game, to the point where there's no meaningful like progression in terms of gear or leveling. That if you get good enough at the game, you don't actually need to increase in power to beat it. Like you can beat the game as like a naked level 1 character. And that's sort of like a interesting thing that probably wouldn't all that like kind of the emergent gameplay around like avoiding death and avoiding getting hit would not come out of that if it wasn't such a like a core pillar and mastery. So that's interesting, important factor.
Because I think
so the way I would summarize it is that you have pretty much a carrot on a stick to stimulate the intensity of your learning curve in games like that.
No, I think.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. No.
Okay.
We're always going to defer to you. Don't worry, you're the guest, and I'm sure
the other
it's
thing
late.
With Souls, right, that it does well is a lot of games they use this sort of like extrinsic motivation. And you are saying carrot on the stick. I think Dark Souls, although it has some amount of extrinsic motivation, for me the extrinsic motivation is seeing what's around the next corner.
Yeah.
But Dark Souls for me is all intrinsic motivation. Like I am doing this because I want to, because I am improving, because like I'm engaged, not because I'm seeking out like that next piece of loot or whatever, right? Like, yeah, there are bits of like, oh, cool, like I got that big victory message when I kill a boss, right? That's like an extrinsically motivating
Totally true.
piece
Totally
of
true.
feedback. But that's not the bulk of how the game.
I was
keeps
referring
you
to
engaged.
just the bag of souls that you drop.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
those become your prime and sole focus.
It's a quantifiable
100%.
thing. You at that point. Yeah. No, absolutely. All right. Well, I think it wrapped around a little bit to where what you were talking about and saying that like, you know, dying is like a fear-inducing thing, right? And specifically with Dark Souls, like. You can not do anything, but you're not going to get anywhere in the game. You have to overcome that fear. You have to kind of like figure out
that fear into something productive and not just let it like linger.
Yeah, and I think that's what that series does well. It taps right into that, and it forces you to make a decision about how you're going to interact with the game. And to me, that's you know, brass tacks, very meaningful. You know,
well, all you guys are explaining, like I gave my example at the beginning. EVE Online is my example.
Totally.
Everything you guys are saying, I feel like applies exactly to that game, also in different ways, maybe. Which, to me, it all comes down to like how much time I like want to invest in the game and how I want to improve myself in the game or something in a way. Like because I've spent so much time learning how not to die in Dark Souls or spending time getting a ship in EVE, it becomes more meaningful when I lose it. Because I've lost this huge investment and I have to earn it back. In Dark Souls, you have to, from what I understand, you guys were saying earlier, you lose the souls and you have to collect them again.
Yeah, it's like your currency, and you go to zero every time you die,
and then you get them back, and you get more.
If you get
with
back
the
to the
next
spot where you died,
Okay. EVE Online's not dissimilar to that. I mean, it's different in different ways, of course, but it's I don't know, like the whole loss mechanic. It makes me more invested in the game because it's challenging who I am as a character, challenging my character or myself as a person, as opposed to maybe like, maybe figuring out mechanics instead or something of a game and like trying to game the system to win it or something. I'm not.
Well, not necessarily even game it, but like literally like kind of tap into the dialogue that you're having with the game designers. Like this is the thing that they're trying to teach you or trying to like impart upon you or like help you experience, and it's. You know, how willing are you to go along with that conversation?
Yeah, in EVE Online, the measure of success that CCP gives people are graphs of destroyed ships. Like they're like, here's the people that were lost in this game, in this war. Like the amount of that was lost. These people lost this huge sum of money and everything. It's just the whole game's like built around loss or like being invested in what you're doing.
Once again, like a quantifiable number. You know what I mean? Or at least like some sort of like statistical analysis that gives you. Like, you know, very large numbers to be like, this is why this means something. And you know what I mean?
Because of that, I mean, just last night we went on, I played EVE again last night and I was having fun with it, and we went to into a wormhole and we got engaged with another group of people, and just because of everything, like I was shaking, like the adrenaline's going and everything. It's like a different,
felt real,
It's like it's more realistic in a way because there is like a way to lose.
If you lose, you lose something substantial in it, and almost like something that equivocates to like a real life loss to a certain degree.
Yeah,
like there's real money involved.
I lost my time investment,
and time is super valuable. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. No, right on.
So.
All right. There's a bunch of good like references in that article. You guys should go check it out. We're not going to get to them today, but the whole dynamics of losing and how to make a game. Have people talk about branching dialogue. What about have branching results for quote unquote failure and stuff like that? I think there's a bunch of things that are worth discussing, especially if you're out there aspiring to be a designer or if you are a designer. These are all really good things worth considering. And as we talk about kind of that whole retro argument about how old games used to be much harder and everything else, I think
the overarching point that Nick actually touched just now upon of this discussion is the value that a player puts on death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, like losing something that you built up in EVE, which pretty much equates to the time, your time, your real life time that you invested in that. The same thing with people behaving toxic in League of Legends for the 45 minutes they're going to lose because they're stuck in a game with you, or the quarter that you lost with Pac-Man. So it's like assigning value, I think, is the most important element of how death mechanics work. And I don't think we've even explored, what's possible in that sense.
No, fair enough. I think we're scratching the surface, maybe, but full on. I think that's actually like a perfect way.
What I got out is that we need my Xbox One needs to take quarters. If I start putting quarters into my
Dark
Xbox
Souls
One,
arcade machine, dude.
Right. There you go.
God.
every life is a new quarter.
All right, number 2, we're
Problem
gonna.
is they would rig that thing, dude. It'd be horrible.
Exactly. Oculus's launch has had its share of issues and notable highlights, like Palmer Luckey hand-delivering the first Oculus Rift to a patient backer in Alaska. However, as initial stock dwindles, fewer and fewer pre-orders are getting filled. So, meaning many of the people who adopted early, who got on board from the get and backed the initial crowdfunding push, still haven't received their Rift. To make matters worse, rumors of a retail shipment for Best Buy and other retail outlets started making the rounds, and if it happens, it means the average non-backer parties could be getting their hands on the Rift before its initial pre-orders did. So, as Antonio Banderas would say, not yet. You know, that kind of thing. But the press has gone out of its way to portray this as a pretty hostile, I don't know, kind of like, fuck you from Oculus to its pre-orderers. I'm curious how you guys feel about this. I think we can all necessarily agree that, like, the press spin on it is interesting, but what's the justification from Oculus's end? This is an open question, so please feel free to jump in here.
Justification is,
You want me to jump in this?
Yeah, go, please.
Yeah.
God, I think it's such clickbait.
Nice. Nice.
I'm late to being a backer on Kickstarter for projects. The first ever project that I sincerely backed was Kung Fury. Which
Wait, the movie?
you might have seen.
That movie's fucking amazing. I love.
I'm an extra in Kung Fury.
Really?
I was my part where you could see my face was eventually cut out for various reasons. The final edit was outsourced to a company that wasn't 100% aware of all the backers that it should take into account.
Yeah.
Those things happen. I had an amazing blast, and I'm still a couple of Nazi soldiers that get killed in that specific scene at the end. So for whoever's listening to this podcast and hasn't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's free on YouTube.
Kung Fury is great, dude. It's fucking amazing.
Kung Fury is the best 30 minutes of your life, and especially if you like to show it to friends, because then it's the best 20 or 30 times 30 minutes of your life, which in my case is true.
Yeah, dude. Jorma Tacone, one of the Lonely Island guys, plays fucking Hitler. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And Hasselhoff's in there. But so not to stay on point, they took so much longer, and it wasn't even a physical product. There are so many Kickstarters right now that are doing much worse things, both willingly and unwillingly. And I think just Oculus is just painted a giant-ass target on its back because of being a legitimate company now and acquired by Facebook. So this is totally blown out of proportion. You take any kind of hardware manufacturer into account. You can ask NVIDIA, Intel, all of those big boys. Sometimes scheduling with retailers is inevitable because retailers still, in this day and age, have incredible power over anybody, including game developers.
As far as making products accessible, absolutely.
Exactly. And so your backers can be as awesome as they want to be. They were not responsible for the fact that you just got bought by Facebook a couple of years ago and now have direct responsibilities to be profitable towards whoever acquired you.
Yeah, for your board members shareholders.
So this for me is clickbait. And, the article, the way the journalist also swears in the article, I find it highly unprofessional. I expect more from Polygon in general. So I can just say, I'm sorry for the backers, but other Kickstarters have done worse. And this is just business. I can
relate with that a little bit. From articles I've been seeing recently, a lot of them kind of like bashing a little bit like, since VR has arrived with the Oculus release and everything, recently there have been a few articles that have been coming out, but it's like, oh, can Oculus like stand up to this? As like, is VR gonna work out? And this is one of those articles where it's like, oh, they're not getting their Rifts out fast enough. It's like, this is the end of VR already. It's like it sounds kind of like hysterical in a way, like.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of like, so you took his point and kind of ran with it. I'm gonna take your point and run with it a little bit, because I think like games journalism in general, and no offense to you former games journalists, but I think it feeds off this kind of thing where, like, look, game fans of video games are very passionate people, and they're it's a very unique fan base in the fact that, like, there's a thing about ownership, right? When you love something so much, you feel like you own a piece of it, right? And if you went to bat for Oculus back in the day, pre-Facebook, and you pre-ordered and you maybe even ordered a dev kit at half price, which I kind of wish I'd done, because at least then I'd have something to fuck around with now. But I think there's a certain amount of fanaticism that almost kind of bleeds through, and I think this speaks to your point a little bit, Vlad, about professionalism. And I honestly actually generally love Ben Kuchera at Polygon. I
Me
think
too.
I know.
This is the first time I frowned. This is the first time I've ever frowned in an article of
but I also kind of see his. I do.
I just picture you sitting there with like this big ass frown on your face, like,
bruh.
No, but did you read that bottom sentence?
Yeah. No, I did.
The bottom sentence just smacked me around the like. Mail the people who bought your product the fucking product before you expand into retail. It's just a thought. I'm like, you just wiped your entire credibility about understanding how this industry and business works in one swoop.
Wow.
Like
there you
that.
go. There you go. No, I do not disagree with you to a certain extent. I think
the mic.
the point is there, but at the same time,
Episode's over.
I felt like that's what that line was for him, like, because he was trying to drop the mic a little bit too. But fair enough. I think maybe it came across. It reads differently than maybe the way he meant it.
Here's my rundown in 3 basic steps. Step 1. You believed in something early on before everyone caught on to it and this company got bought by Facebook.
Yes.
Step 2. Everyone becomes super freaking skeptic about this effort becoming a success, and there's more games out there than can make a proper living because the hardware isn't out.
There's too much money behind it, yeah.
Complain about the fact that now the industry machine is working and is trying to actually make this into a consumer product and a platform that can support a continued production of content,
right? Meet consumer demand. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
absolutely.
And you complain about the actual thing that you complained. You're complaining about their fix to the thing you complained about a few months ago, which is that it might not be, a sufficient market to be sustainable. So that's the best possible point right there.
Yeah. Right there is that people are complaining that now by expanding the market, they're fixing the problem that they had initially, which was we're not sure if there even is one. And I think,
and there's a simple rule about Kickstarter backers: you can never please a Kickstarter backer.
Correct. You're not an investor. You're a donor. You're a donor.
Backer of video games, of hardware products, of indie initiatives like Kung Fury, and indie Couch even, which is like a kind of free Airbnb for indies. No one can ever be happy on Kickstarter.
No, it's true.
The sooner you accept that as a Kickstarter backer, the better quality backer you actually are as a community member of whatever initiative you back.
Fucking preach, dude. Preach.
I know we're not even in the lightning round yet, but I want to just prematurely award Vlad like 1,000 Oculus headsets.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. At least then you can fly to Alaska or wherever else and hand deliver them to all the pre-orders. How about that?
You can come to Amsterdam and hand deliver them.
Yeah. I think you're right, man. I
see him nodding. He wants that. He wants that.
Well, all right. So here,
we'll make it happen.
There you go. So here's my question though. So I think you've established your stance on it fairly well, but is there an argument to be made that it does kind of look bad just because of the scrutiny alone, where if your pre-orders are not filled, how do you become a business-facing kind of entity now and start shipping into retail? I understand that they have certain stipulations in place to kind of like circumvent this. Like if you had a pre-order, you can go to Best Buy or on May 7th, get it from Amazon or whatever, and get your copy, and then we'll still redeem all of your pre-order like bonuses digitally or through our shop. You know what I mean? And so they're still going to get everything they got. They just didn't necessarily get it the way that they thought they would, or that Oculus told them they would.
So
is there something wrong with that, or is it just kind of is it just damage
Someone
control?
wasn't thinking about the PR backlash.
Okay.
This is almost, you can almost imagine that this was given to an engineer or someone who did the Kickstarter campaign 5 years ago for and they're just like, how can we fix this? And they didn't think about the consequences. This shouldn't have been done, and the notice that these things are going to retailers shouldn't have leaked.
Right.
But then again, that's the other rule in this industry, right? Everything leaks. So then,
whether by choice or not,
you can't win with this kind of a situation where you were a Kickstarter project and now got bought up by Facebook. You just simply have to accept it. And I think that a long time ago already, I think before the Time magazine cover, they accepted that all of this is going to happen and worse. So whoever does their PR, I salute them, because those motherfuckers need to be like badass, like stone cold,
straight up like Hollywood LA types, like
bulletproof.
Yeah, exactly.
Bulletproof. You got to be bulletproof to do the PR for Oculus. So I respect every single one of them.
All right. So this is not as big as a problem as everybody's making it out to seem. Is that the conclusion here?
You know what the biggest problem is going to be? If this is not going to be a market and everyone's going to be like, I just spent a ton of money on something and there's no games. Remember Ouya? I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
this is nothing. This is nothing compared to Ouya.
Yeah. No,
Even Ouya was. I say Ouya did great, but I mean, let's not even go into that. But I'm saying, as long as you're not into Ouya territory, you're fine, in my perspective.
I remember the prospect of Ouya feeling really great, and it launched, and then maybe not so much. Like there were things like Nidhogg and Towerfall that came out of that, which was awesome. But for like an Android platform,
does the prospect of Oculus still feel bad to you because of?
No, not at all. But I'm not an early adopter. I'm going to wait a couple years while everybody keeps dipping their toes into this VR thing and making all these fun little like simulators like The Climb and stuff like that. And when people really start diving deep, me either. I don't own a headset. I'm not gonna for a little while. I'm gonna wait till everybody kind of keeps collaborating, keeps figuring out all these design problems, and when those first couple of like full length $60 or whatever games come out, then I'll be on board because I'll that kind of thing. But in the meantime, I'm excited about it. I love the fact that it exists. I love the fact that it's here, and I hope that all you Oculus pre-order people get your mask soon.
Yeah. I hope so too, because they do deserve it. I'm going to be the first person to say that. But having done multiple Kickstarters, I've learned to not expect anything.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's the difference, right? I mean, we're going to move on here shortly, but like as a final thought, like if you back something on Kickstarter, that does not make you an investor. It doesn't give you say in anything that happens. It makes you a donor. You have donated to a cause, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if you want to have some kind of say, be a millionaire, go to Fig, and then invest in that, and then become like a shareholder in that company, effectively. You know what I mean? So
and enjoy the stress that comes with it.
Yeah. And there you go. So speaking of stress, this is a good segue, actually. And new technology. While we're on that subject, Google has patented designs on a computerized lens that can be injected into your eyeball. The implications are numerous, profound, and a little scary. But let's keep in mind that patents get filed all the time and not necessarily ever made. But let's pretend it'll happen for the sake of conversation. Optometrists everywhere just broke into a flop sweat. So
this reminds me of the Futurama episode where they're all getting their iPhones and they're all just getting the thing put into their eye.
And I think Arroyo, our producer and editor who isn't with us tonight, mentioned something about Black Mirror, the Netflix series, or it used to be a BBC series that's now going to be coming back to Netflix. And just how, the evils of technology like wrought upon the world.
I just have 3 words. I just think Ghost in the Shell.
There you go.
That's the first thing I thought of.
No, absolutely. So there's this process that they patented. They're going to remove your biological lens, fill the empty lens capsule with fluid, and then place a computerized lens within. That is theoretically, could eradicate the need for glasses or contact lenses. Even, maybe they have like that. What's the glasses that like get dark in sunlight, but then when you walk into a room they clear up?
Smart glass, right?
Like I think they're called transitions lenses, but like that's the old like American
there might be a technical
70s version, I think, or something. But like people could you could zoom in with your own eye instead of having to put on binoculars or use a telescope, that kind of thing. So the implications are interesting, but if it's connected to Google, then obviously you're transmitting data. So instead of the NSA.
Have you guys seen Ex Machina?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Love that movie.
That's the second thing I think of.
You're not wrong, dude. Go ahead.
Collecting all the data and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I can literally that's going to happen. I mean, you're going to put technology in your body. You're going
photographic memory is now like a thing, right? Somehow.
But do you guys specifically recall that quote by, the guy who's now the new hero in Star Wars? I forgot his name.
Oscar Isaac. Yeah.
Yeah. So he at one point was describing what made him a billionaire with his search engine in that movie, and he said it wasn't what people searched for, it was what they were thinking.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. And that is like creepy as hell in combination with this.
Yes.
It's not just what you watch, but it's the next step to what you're thinking. Because where your eyes are at, I'm not sure if you guys have ever looked into body language, but where people look is usually what kind of like part of their brain they're accessing. like, you
I
know,
think
when
you're
people
not
look
wrong,
to the
yeah.
left or right, it usually says something about whether they're thinking about a functional thing or an emotional thing.
It's a conclusion you
creative
made
thing.
from it, yeah, one way or the other, yeah.
And so the implications of you know, this being connected to Google are huge, but the first thing I think of is just them getting into our brains even more. And this sounds really conspiracy theory stuff, but I and the other thing I read, like you read it nicely, you know, but removing the biological lens sounds to scooping my eyeball out.
In fact, with a fucking ice cream scoop, straight up. That's all I can think about. Like somebody just coming up to me with a fucking ice cream scoop and being like,
it'll be like a tiny little incision, right? They'll just peel it off.
yeah, but
It'll
the
be
problem
fine.
with
They'll
eye
put the new
surgery,
one on.
the problem
It's
with
just
eye
so
surgery,
lazy.
dude,
Yeah,
is that
What
you
do
have
they
to
do
be
with the old
awake
ones? Do
for
they
it.
freeze
Like,
do you get it in a jar? What do they do? With
They'll give it to someone who needs a lens. I don't know, man.
well, but
But
go ahead.
I love this. I actually was having a similar conversation before I came on the show today, and I want Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, Google, all of them to collect all this data about me and make like this model, and then they can clone me out of all that data.
Or just
I'm so hyped
predict
about
when you
that.
need, like,
Don't forget Pornhub.
yeah, right, exactly.
All the tools that they can implant in my body or put on my computer and like collect all this data about me, and they'll just what are they going to do with it? They're either going to sell me products or they're going to make a clone of me, and I'm excited about both.
You're like, give me robot
I
eyes
think
and
Chris
then
touches
good.
upon a good point. It's like there, you know, it's for me personally. If I can get access to that data in a presentable form, and I can have like Google Analytics based on where I look,
Yep.
fuck yeah.
That's
That-
awesome.
From a
That I-
design
that I would
standpoint,
buy for
absolutely,
$1.
there's a bunch of data that could be super useful on the back end of that. I completely agree. But you know, like there's also that argument to be made where like, you know, the NSA is gonna be like, well, fuck all you guys. I don't care about your cell phone. I care about what your eyeballs are doing. You know what I
The
mean?
NSA has more data than it even knows what to do with right
That's
now.
the problem. Yeah. Exactly. Chris touches upon a great problem that, you know, going back to game design, it's not about how much data you can collect. It's about how you can fucking pick
And parse
what is
it, yeah.
important and parse it. Yeah. And so that's the same thing. Like I instantly, like, just by the conversation that you guys have had, I went into the naughty direction of making a video game that actually gives you points for not looking at people's cleavages, or the other way around.
Always
That's
thinking.
one of the things
Always
that I would
thinking.
feel embarrassed about, you know, seeing. And then, you know, the other things, like poor fat people are going to realize that they can't see their genitals anymore when they go to the bathroom. All of those kind of really dark things
Come on.
that you can measure. Because we're talking about what kind of data we would pick. That's the
Well, like
My dark mind
I imagine with
corrupted.
my smart eyes, I could extrapolate where to grab and to aim if I had to take a piss. You know what I mean?
And think about what happened with VR. What are the first startups going to be that are going to seek investment? What are the investors are going to that would go into apps for this? It's porn.
data mining.
It starts
Well,
with porn, it ends with porn.
technology advances always starts with porn. We can agree on that point, but I think like when it comes down to it, when you have something collecting data or like amassing this amount of data, like the companies that are going to buy into that are the ones that are the, you know, have all these systems and algorithms set up that can parse through it, or at least to some
Exactly.
degree. So
So that's why I'm interested in. Like Google doing this, it's like, remember they had that term glass holes for Google Glass people?
well, I like this
They're
better
gonna
than
have
I like this better than Google Glass for
They're gonna ban
sure.
us from bars if we have this. I can tell you right now.
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Nick?
I was just gonna say that immediately reminds me of Futurama again, at the point where he's searching for, or it's like, oh, I wish I had something for my underarm fungus. It's like, and the thing pops up in front of him. It's like, here, cream for your underarm or like fungus, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's gonna be exactly that.
I think that
So-
episode.
It's all
pretty much,
ad.
like,
It's
covers-
ad driven,
Yeah.
advertisement
Yeah.
like driven kind of thing. Well, and that's
It
also.
covers so many topics.
But here's my question though. Like, what happens when it breaks down? Let's say you have the implant. Like, do you go
and
blind?
you get stuck in like far vision mode or like
Right, like one way or the other, or
microscopic-
you just have like a constant scrolling Google platform in front of your face while you're trying to walk down the street or catch the subway or get on a bus or something. Like, that sounds crazy to me. Like,
What happens when your real eyes break down, though, man? Same problem.
you get LASIK, which was like a thing 20 years ago. It's like, you know, we're gonna fucking augment your eyes with lasers. You know what I mean?
But they just shave the lens. They give you a new lens. They give you Google eyes.
But I think that's an interesting point, because what we're talking about in that subject are people who already are suffering from a bad eyesight.
Sure.
Whereas I see the Google, you know, initiative for cyber lenses being something that, funny enough, is going to be for rich people and not necessarily even, you know, people who have bad eyesight.
Sure.
That's the thing, though. Like, me having fine eyesight, never having to complain about it, the idea, how do you get people over that threshold of sacrificing a perfectly fine physical appendage for technology without what you guys just addressed, the guarantee that it's actually going to be a sustainable thing? So the live testing, that's what I'm thinking about right now. It's like, who are going to be those first people that are going to live test this shit? And are they going to like suffer just the same way as that scene in RoboCop where they introduced the first RoboCops?
I'm just gonna call them Google eye holes. They're not glass holes anymore. They're just Google eye holes.
Literally, right?
Right. Straight up.
Nothing in there anymore.
So what did they say these things can do? They can zoom and they can magnify, right?
That's the idea, or even just correct. Like they literally become like a dynamic lens enough
where they can correct my
your
glasses
vision
or something. Yeah. Is that necessary? I guess for like the what you could be losing, like your privacy or something, or like
there is that like if they're collecting data, then the assumption is that there is a violation of privacy or a continued violation of privacy from anything that collects data at all.
Well, exactly what he was saying is like my eyesight's perfect. Do I have any real incentive to get this? Is like magnifying like eye lenses?
I don't know. It depends on the magnification. Like you could see into deep space. You could literally be.
You could see into.
You could be standing on the surface of the Earth and be a fucking Hubble telescope, and like you could be looking at. I think the beauty of Pluto, and,
I think we're a little bit
was still a planet.
From that, we're a little bit away from this technology right now. I think.
No, I like I said, it's a patent. It's a patent. It's not made. You know what I mean? I'm just like for the sake of conversation, we're pretending that it's like
I should patent teleporters, so like nobody can make a teleporter.
Right? There's no Kickstarter, so don't back this, guys. Okay, like relax.
But one thing I look forward to is like this is technically going to make selfies impossible.
True that.
And even though I'm guilty of taking some, I hate people that like.
Make it a ritual, yeah. No, I understood.
And so I hope that this actually becomes a thing, because then people can't take selfies.
if only for that reason.
They would use their drones that they could look through their eyes.
Oh no, they'll pop out the eyeball and aim it
and put it in their drone, and then there you go.
I was thinking they could see their selfie through their eye from their drone point of view that comes off their watch.
Yeah, dude. If Guillermo del Toro stopped doing horror and did a little more sci-fi, like he could like meld that fucking monster from Pan's Labyrinth with like the eyeballs in its palms, and then. Like the futuristic guy would take the eyeballs out of his palms, put it in a drone.
But here's the funny part: like with these kind of developments, and I have to compliment Google for always pushing the envelope.
Of course,
Google Glass. It's like this kind of technology. I think I already mentioned it once with the Oculus thing, but this when new technology pops up, when things like these pop up, it automatically becomes a political issue.
Sure.
New technology always gets that. And it's not because of the good that it can do, it's because it becomes a branch of what we already do in life, both good and bad.
Or wish we could do, exactly.
Or wish we could do, yes, in terms of our fantasies. So, the topic of, the benefits versus risks, I mean, I see both happening. How are you going to show people that you're not recording when you're looking at them? Is there going to be a bleeping red dot in the center, like the Terminators have?
Right.
The political and social, like the social political impact that this could have is huge. And if we do like have a Deus Ex kind of branch to this discussion, it will segregate people.
No, absolutely.
It will most likely, like I would say that this might even be the first implication to discrimination because of augmented people. Very similar to how Google Glass got that glass hole mark to it and was forbidden in bars and whatnot. And that is something that I personally am intrigued by, is how that social political impact is taking place. And that's the same thing that I'm curious about. It's like, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen anyone in an airplane with the VR goggles yet. But I'm curious to see how, for example, airlines are going to react to it, but also the people sitting next to you.
Well, true. It's like,
and let's not even talk about bionic eyes, right?
Right.
But just
wait till they put VR in your contact lens. What happens then? So
well, yeah, it's exactly that. It's like anybody could be recording anything at any time with these robot eyes, and
much like Google Glass or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Except for now, like they can't necessarily even tell that you have them. Like you go to the locker room at the gym, you I don't know, you record your wife or something at home, and it's there for everybody to see if they had access to it, or somebody could put it up online if they wanted to. like you said, it's the social implications of it. It's kind of it's ridiculous. I think personally that we're headed more towards an age where we're not going to be able to have as much privacy or something.
Oh, and that's been happening for a long time. And I agree.
We're going to continue down that route.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I think on that topic, there's a lot of people who are trying to protect their privacy. Funny enough, I just bought a lifetime VPN membership today just because it looked really cheap, and now I'm wondering what the hell am I supposed to do with this. But I think that from my perspective and the way I live, because I travel a lot for my job, I've given up on the idea that anything that I do is private. Down to any kind of nasty picture that I receive or would send to anybody, which is one of the prime examples of what can happen when people get access to your files, right? It's the naughty stuff. It's the things you don't want people to see. I was just reading this, Goldfinger. I have the audio book, the James Bond book by Ian Fleming, where even James Bond says, right? When you go into someone's house, you go to the bathroom and their bedroom. In the bedroom. That's where the sensitive stuff is.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so with this day and age, like people take selfies in their bathroom, forget to flush, like it's over. Like you might as well accept that you do not have privacy if you agree on using technology and platforms like Facebook.
And that's an excellent point, man, because I think ultimately, like, if you agree to kind of take part in this level of technology or this level of interaction with technology, then you kind of give up, like, inherently or not, like whether it was designed to do this or not, like you are literally giving up, whether you like it or not, a semblance of your privacy. And it's the argument, it centers around the fact that this kind of thing, this pillar of privacy is getting chipped away at more and more. And I think you're right, man.
And with regards to what kind of social political implications technology like this could have, what I personally see is it becomes politicized, it becomes culturalized. So if this would actually become a reality, I could really easily see our future where specific areas or even specific nations might become hotbeds for people that are into augmenting their bodies beyond basic surgical enhancements.
It's already started, man. People are already doing this. Like there's LED like attachments like that are like but the way patches, that stuff like that, you know what I mean? So
but the thing I wanted to refer to is, for example, which something I recently read about, how, for example, in America, nudity is associated with sex, whereas in other cultures it isn't. And so you can't find a nudist beach in the U.S. or they're most likely shady black operated ones in the forest.
Right.
But at the same time, in various European countries, there's assigned locations, or there's even complete freedom of being a nudist on beaches, for example, in the Netherlands and in Denmark. So I think the way people perceive our bodies is very similar to how they're going to perceive these kind of technical augmentations as well in the future.
Especially when it pertains to privacy.
Google aside completely.
No, sure. In general, I agree with you. And and this is actually kind of like where I think the Europeans are getting it a little bit better than us. Like when it comes to erasing identities or like getting off the internet in general, it's a much easier to do, as far as I understand it, from a European aspect than it is even in America. Like you guys have full-on legislation through the EU and stuff that makes it pretty easy to get away from it if you want to. You know what I mean? You can file a whole thing and get out.
It's more an inherent part of people's cultures. Like I lived in Finland. In Finland, you go to the sauna from when you're 3 years old. By the time you're 10, the amount of dicks you've seen at eye height, because that's usually the height where you're at. Like when you're 10 years old, you're like,
you got dicks in your face, dude. You got to learn to dodge, man. Dude. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
So you're just like you're conditioned
or not.
to
That's
see
fine.
forests of dicks.
Yeah, totally.
By the time you turn 10.
Can that be the episode title? Forest of Dicks.
Maybe not.
Maybe Dick Forest.
We'll call it Richard Forest for
But what I wanted to finish off with on this topic is, in terms of privacy, we've seen what's happened. Celebrities mostly suffering from this. We had like Jennifer, what was her name? The lady who played in Laura, yeah.
Oh, the fappening. You're talking about the fappening.
Yes, we had the fappening happen where various actresses and I think even actors got their exposed. I think Jennifer, what's her name again?
Lawrence.
Yeah. Lawrence, yeah. She had an excellent interview about the experience, very painful interview, where she said one simple thing, and that's that it all comes down to agency. When you choose to take anything that's private, and share it or put it online, as long as you have the choice and the agency to do it, it's fine. But the moment that agency is taken away from you by hackers or by a third party, that's when it actually hurts. And I think that it's the same thing with these kind of technologies, that if they remove a person's sense of agency, that's when things go wrong. But as long as we all are willing and we sign that dotted line underneath the end user license agreement when we get enhanced like this, it should be fine. Right? It all comes down to that.
Or at least tested and understood and explained to a point where we can all engage with it in a way that we all understand it.
Yeah.
And or the repercussions. But to a certain extent, like technology, as it advances at an exponential rate, understanding technology and what the repercussions are is a hard thing to do at the same time.
Exactly.
So, all right. Fair enough. We're going to move on to the lightning round, everybody. It's time... And here's how it works. We're going to take 2 quick topics and give each member of a panel a minute to chime in, uninterrupted for the most part. You can react with laughter and whatnot, but we're going to try and give everybody their full 60 seconds uninterrupted. At the end of each minute, we will award the panelists a quantity of some type of points based on nothing in particular. So, for the first topic, an article from Cinema Blend posits that more Hollywood actors should appear in video games, while performance capture continues to get better and the lifelike representation gets better. Do you think it adds something and needed to games? Does it depend on the game? Do you have games in mind where Hollywood types have made a game better with their presence? Press X to pay respects. Is it even a viable platform for lesser known talent to launch careers in entertainment? Let's throw it out there. I assume you guys read the article. It doesn't matter. But do we like actors in video games or not? That's what it comes down to. So, first minute, Mr. Golish.
Hey, how's it going?
60 seconds. Tell me why or why not we need more Hollywood in video games.
We need more Hollywood? I mean, Hollywood's been
just actors.
Okay. Hollywood's been kind of ruining it, but do we need more actors? Would better actors make the video game movies better? I'm not so certain. I think what you were saying, something like, is it I feel like video games already have such a huge backing. It'd be actually like an avenue for newer talent to actually get into the industry. It would actually be pretty advantageous. I feel like they could be an extra in this video game in Resident Evil 6, and they could use that as a stepping stone. Do I need like a big name actor in my video games? I suppose it may help, but I don't know if it's necessary. Like, I don't know. Like, is there an argument? Oh, I forgot to even start the timer.
It's okay. Keep going. I got you. I know where you're at. Keep going. You got about 10 seconds left, so go ahead.
No. I don't need video games. I don't need big games.
No more Hollywood?
I don't need big Hollywood in my games. Like,
fair enough.
The movies have been okay as they are, and they'll continue to be okay from now on. And I don't know if bigger names are what's going to fix it.
Okay. I will award you 1 Willem Dafoe and 1 Ellen Page character model from the game that David Cage made that nobody played. How about that?
The one where they didn't take out her nipples and somebody hacked the camera and they panned it down. And
I'm not sure if that happened, but sure.
That happened. It was a huge scandal.
Great. All right. Mr. Morris, give me a minute about whether or not Hollywood actors should or should not be in video games more often than not.
I mean, I think as long as it enhances the game and not just for the sake of bringing the brand recognition of the actor to the game for the point of sales, that it's cool. I think that Until Dawn was a great example of a game where bringing in Hollywood actors was a fantastic idea and really worked well for that game, and the performances were excellent. Even Peter Stormare, right, as the kind of wacky doctor, nailed it. And so, as long as it's like, that's kind of the point to make a game that's meant to be this cinematic experience, it's great. But just for the sake of marketing, I think it's kind of a waste.
All right. I'm going to give you one group of nihilists from Big Lebowski, because we believe in nothing, who Peter Stormare also happened to.
That's the money Lebowski.
That's the money Lebowski. We believe in nothing. Yeah, all right. Mr. Micu, if you'd be so
Got
kind.
my timer ready.
I have. Okay, good. Oh, you're gonna do it yourself? Great.
Yeah.
I don't have to then. Awesome. You have 60 seconds. Please tell me why you think or disagree with Hollywood getting more into video games or not.
I believe that from my research back in college, theater was considered in some discussions to be the closest to video games because it allows for the interaction between actor and audience. I think that if a game can, regardless of its production size, allow the actor to have a central stage, and even maybe allow them to interact directly with the player in some marginal sense or another, it would be definitely an enhancement. But up until now, we've seen most of them be wallflowers. I think that the example addressed in this article, Beyond Two Souls, is a great example of how it went beyond that. But I think we're just getting started. I think you really need to do more. They need to do more research on this topic and allow for actors to use that stage more. And that's my time.
I will award you one vinyl copy of Jacob Dylan's band, The Wallflowers' first album.
Excellent.
Good work.
No, I think you made a good point, man. I think it's an interesting venue for actors to work in, and it's becoming more and more prolific with these guys like Troy Baker and the guy who does fucking Uncharted. What's his name?
I mean,
Nathan Drake.
Nathan Drake. Yeah, but what's his real name? Nolan North.
Oh,
Thank you.
the
Yeah,
real
Nolan
guy.
North.
Nolan North. Yeah.
And we're seeing more and more all the time, like guys like Mark Hamill who are doing the Joker like respectably well. And
But Mark Hamill was
He's been
such
doing
an
the Joker for so
exception,
long,
right? Because
yeah.
he started with like the cartoons and
Sure,
everything.
sure.
He's done it for decades, so that's talent. That's
Established
he's
talent. Right.
Established multi background talent. Like that's why I love when they get theater people in.
No, me too.
I think,
Me too.
Volume, Mike Bithel's new game had Andy Serkis in it, and I heard the story about how he got Andy Serkis on board, and it's impressive. And it's the same, I think of Colot, where they had what was it, Bean, Sean Bean.
Yeah. Ned Stark.
Which
Ned Stark.
on
yeah.
the other hand, was
Yeah.
quite a disappointment because I didn't see all I could imagine was Sean Bean reading a text. Done.
Yeah,
Right?
no, fair enough.
So there's
Fair
no
enough.
stage effect right there. Like, you need to give these people a stage
Sure.
to enhance it and not just like, here, read the script in this microphone, done.
No, fair
Bye.
enough. Fair enough. All right. If you don't mind, I'm gonna
Take thought.
take the last minute for this one. Everybody's all right with that? All right, here we go. And Vlad, you have the distinct honor of awarding me points at the end of my
Excellent.
minutes. All right, here we go. So I'm actually of the opinion that more Hollywood and movie stuff needs to happen within video games more often. I think I'm just speaking very personally and for myself. Like I am very much a narrative based person, and so when you have kind of the marriage of really good shot structure and really good story, and if you can apply that to the mechanics and design of video games, like I think there's like a very perfect medium that exists there and has only happened or been touched upon or gotten close to in very specific and rare examples. And you could say Uncharted, you could say Until Dawn, for instance, like you talked about, Chris. I think there are certain ways where that works really well. Should we have more Hollywood in there? Why the fuck not? Because there's so much talent out there that can give like so much more immersion, so much more just delivery to really good roles and good storytelling. You need a good story first, and you need a good game almost just as importantly. And I just want everybody to have a good fucking time. The more talent that comes to it, the better. Having a good actor is the same thing as having a good designer or a good programmer or a good producer or a good game director at the same time. Like the more talent you get, everybody works well together. The better off the product is in the general, and the better off if you have a good time playing it. So there you go.
Your time's up. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I went a little long.
Yeah, that went on for a while.
That's fine, because like I'm gonna award Joe this 60 seconds can from the acclaimed video game.
I wish it's a podcast. I wish everybody could see that, but there was literally a can that he just held up to the camera that said 60 seconds on it to remind me to be on time. Punctuality is a good trait to have.
Do you know the game? It's an awesome
No,
game,
I
but
don't. I honestly don't. I'm sorry to say.
I think if Hollywood actors would have been in that, it would have been perfect. But it's about you're a dad of a family of 2 kids and your wife. You have 60 seconds to collect stuff around your house, and then you have to go into your underground bunker, and that's when the story starts. And it's like multi-choice, multi-ending,
Dude, that sounds
death,
rad as
all that
hell.
kind of stuff.
That's
It's made
awesome.
by a Polish indie dev called Robot Gentleman. I highly recommend you try out.
Fucking A, yeah, absolutely. Oh, no doubt. That's awesome.
It touches upon the death topic that we just discussed.
That's great. That's great.
So-
All right. Last topic for the day, everybody. Lightning round. Last 5 minutes. There's some hubbub about the possibility of streaming services like Hulu and YouTube streaming live television as early as next year. This makes a certain amount of sense as people are figuring out that cable is becoming obsolete and these services continue to disrupt their archaic model. So is this something to look forward to? Is there an argument to be made that these companies shouldn't do this? Or do major networks need to worry? Is it just a logical progression? Or have you cut the cord yet? Or is it a good reason to do so now? So, Mr. Morris, I'm going to start with you. How do you feel about Hulu and YouTube actually stream, like, live TV being in quotes, because if you're streaming TV at that point, like, it's not really live. There's always going to be a couple seconds of delay and everything else. But talk to me about it.
I'm not a fan of Hulu at all, but what I am a fan of is all of this like quote unquote live TV or TV shows or whatever being completely on demand, right? I think that television is probably modern or normal television one of the biggest wastes of time ever. Like, I'm just gonna plop myself down in front of the TV. I'm at the TV's like behest as to whatever it wants to put on and commercials and everything, right? Like, I don't watch TV anymore. I'll watch a show at my own convenience, my own leisure, like whatever I want to watch and have access to. And so I think like proper cable should just die and go away, and that everything should be replaced by this like a la carte model at a reasonable price point.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to award you a Roku, an Apple TV, and a Chromecast stick.
Nice.
Wow, that's
Wow,
gracious.
I could sell those on eBay probably for quite a bit.
I get it. You don't have time to watch TV. I get it. Fair enough. All right, Mr. Golish, would you give me a minute?
I suppose so.
Okay.
Let me start it.
Go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
All right. This is pretty cool. Like, I always imagined the day where I could just pay like per channel and what I wanted to watch, and now we're kind of like we're reaching that point. Like, I can get HBO, I can get CBS, I can get Hulu, which has a lot of NBC shows on it, and I don't have to get the cooking show. I don't have to get the one where they're selling stuff all the time with people standing in front of things and they got these graphics on and they're telling this whole thing. Is this the end of cable? Absolutely not. Cable will not die until the NFL stops renewing its subscription with Fox and CBS. And until then, we're still going to have to deal with getting that bundle with our internet bill. Like, hey, do you want to get like basic cable with your internet package? You're still going to get that offer every time. And until they stop doing that, which is not going to happen until like 2025 probably, or 2030, then it's not. Then expect cable to still be there.
I think you hit about one of the greatest points about this whole argument, and that's the whole sports thing, because most intelligent...
It's not sports, and the NFL. I'm saying...
NFL specifically, and you're right to point them out, but I think a lot of sports are having a hard time decoupling from cable packages.
Yeah.
Everybody has a bunch of production deals and broadcasting deals and everything else. Mm-hmm. I think, at least when it comes to stateside, and I'm not sure how it works with what it's like in the Netherlands or in Europe in general.
It's
but
all about the money, guys. It's all about them
Always.
licenses and all that
Always.
stuff. So,
Always.
just like retailers still exist, even though Amazon is reigning supreme right now, it's not going to be going anywhere.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I'm going to award you your own NFL sports team.
Oh.
Whoa.
Which one?
Whichever one, you can create your own.
I can create my own.
But realize that means that like now there's 33 teams and you have
We
to
have to create another one,
reconfigure
too,
conferences and
means I need another 2 more after that, so we need 4 more teams.
You're welcome. Okay. All right.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I am, and I'll give you the last minute as our guest to cap us off appropriately. All right. When it comes to cable, Hold on. I'm going to set the timer. Blam, 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 and start. So here it is. Cable television is a fucking joke. We've all been kind of attached to it, at least in America, for a very, very, very long time. And more people are getting away from it. My wife and I, and my son, we've made very conscious decisions about cable cutting, both 5 years ago and for many years up till a point where we moved back to Seattle, where everything was cheaper compared to New York for a while. We were like, oh, fuck, let's get cable again. And we were like, fuck that. Let's get rid of cable. My biggest problem with all of this, I don't care who wants to stream TV. This is the biggest and one of the most important, quote-unquote, disrupts that's happening in the technological world right now. And that's how we get content that we were having in front of us for so long. TV was the first, real central point. It became the new world campfire. This is what the thing that people centered around and fucking did their thing with. Exactly. And ultimately, now it's becoming the internet and or video games or whatever it is that you want to do. It's not the movie theater anymore. It's not anything about that. How do we make that more central? How do we make the heart more internet? Services, streaming TV, man. Fucking A. I'm all about it. Let's have it happen. I'll pay $5 a month for YouTube Red or whatever.
It's still less than what you pay for cable.
Exactly. I mean, it's gonna be cheaper and easier. So why the fuck not? As long as people, those cable companies are still. My minute's up, and I get that, but those cable companies, those cable companies still have the ability to control our internet and bandwidth, and that's actually the real problem. So
yeah,
once we get that shit sorted out, I don't know. Open fucking season. Wild Wild West, guys. What the fuck? So, all right, I'm done. Thank you. Sorry.
Minus 50 points for being 50 seconds.
Right, fair enough. That's fair. That's fair. Yes, Mr. Micu, you're allowed to actually award me points. So.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I'm going to award you 10 golden carrot F-bombs for this one.
Fair enough. I'll take it. If I can mount them on the hearth, the shelf above my fireplace / TV /
there's
it's
some
fine.
Heavy F-bombs there.
Sorry, I get passionate after a couple beers. I'm sorry. But you have the pleasure of delivering our final minute for the show today. So please do tell me why streaming services through Hulu and YouTube are a good or a bad thing.
All right, here we go. So I believe that cable will eventually die down the same way that other technologies that have set certain precedents in the past, but now are pretty much tied to the generations that consume them. So it will exist until the last person who has a subscription dies, most likely, and even then, because people forget to cancel their contract. But as for the future with Hulu and YouTube, what I'm seeing is an increased amount of competition on the live streaming market. My biggest fear, even though that competition is good because it'll drive the prices down, is that through these kind of analytics-driven sources of entertainment, we will see less and less independent creations and content, because everything will be driven by the preferences of the majority. And my fear is that there will be less space for creative content, and the only opportunity right now or in the future to make something cool is by being an exclusive to one of these platforms, as we're seeing Amazon and Netflix already doing. So I used to watch Battlestar Galactica on Hulu. That's why I watched it.
Nice.
You mean the new one or the old one?
The original, like
old school, like 70s version.
No, the 2000 one, not the old school one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not the first one that starred Richard Hatch, the second one that starred.
Okay, fair enough. Gotcha. It's a good show. I don't blame you.
I loved it.
I watched it too. No, it's good. All right. Thank you, man, very much. That was fantastic. I'm gonna award you one clone copy of Richard James Olmos. I
had to give him a base star.
Oh yeah, okay, fair. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. That works.
Does he come with the uniform, or is he naked?
No, glasses and uniform. And the clone back tear. So
excellent.
He just stands in the corner of your room. And he just looks at you condescendingly, wondering why you can't fly your fighter better. That's all. That's it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. That's what I've always wanted. My parents would be thrilled to have him at home.
It's one more thing to put in the attic. God damn it. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Exactly right. Staring over my shoulder.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Episode 95, it comes to a close. Vlad, thanks so much for being here, sir. It's so great to talk with you. If you'd be so kind, please let the folks know where they can check out your work, everything that you're working on, and where they can talk to you on Twitter,
Sure.
and take this time to plug everything and anything that you'd like.
Thank you so much. No, it's been a pleasure to be part of this podcast. I really enjoyed myself. Totally forgot that it's the middle of the night and that I have to wake up in 6 hours. But that's a problem for future Vlad. Contemporary Vlad is super thrilled to be part of this and is currently working together with the team of Data Realms, as part of the team of Data Realms, on Planetoid Pioneers, which is our new game. We just released it on Steam Early Access a few weeks ago. We're doing something unconventional where we only want you to be part of our community and buy the game if you're interested in actually using the toolkit and editor and Crush 2D engine that we built ourselves right now, because the game ain't ready yet. Aside from that, you can follow me on Twitter at VGVisionary. That's my Twitter account, and our Twitter account for Data Realms is Data Realms. So that's pretty easy to remember. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And
Awesome.
just for the record, the reason I called my company VG Visionary was because I wrote about game developers. Everyone thinks I'm some kind of like pompous prick for calling myself that. Because that's on my business card.
Nah,
and
man.
So I've had people think that, but it was because I interviewed game
wear it with
developers.
pride.
That was my spiel.
Wear it
So
with
I don't
pride,
consider
dude.
myself that at all, for the record.
No, man, good for you. Whatever. You're a visionary. I believe in it. You've been on my podcast now, and I
straight.
My imposter syndrome says you're totally talking shit, but that's cool.
No, that's not. Listen. I was.
Never.
We were fortunate enough to have you on the show, so
It was a pleasure. Yes.
you got to give us a bit of your visionary status, so to speak. All right, and I appreciate it very much, and that's honest. So, thank you for being here, dear listener. And thank you, Vlad, of course. And we're always curious to hear what you think. So make sure you hit us up, cheatcodespodcast.com, on the Facebook and the Twitter. Join in on the conversation. We're quickly approaching episode 100, and that's pretty exciting. I'm not sure we know what we're doing yet, but I promise you whatever it is that we do is going to be great. Vlad, many thank yous your way. I'd love to have you back, man, if we can. We'll be in touch. And I don't know. I hope you have a lovely rest of your morning in Netherlands, is what I hope. So
I will sleep soundly knowing that I contributed to this podcast, and we'll cherish the memories of these conversations.
that's super sweet, man.
Aw,
Thank
That's
you.
really sweet.
Oh, it warms my cold dead heart.
So, in the words of our movie theme today, try not to turn it into a bloodbath, will ya? We'll see you next week. Say goodbye, everybody.
All right, good night, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.